Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Ivadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Prajajana Janjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Shoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna. So, Bhakti Yoga fan, moving right along to the Bhagavatam. Boy, I forgot to keep careful. So, 7th canto, 1st chapter. Text 6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, text 6. You gonna make that bigger? Normal size.
It was what he just said. It was awesome.
Okay, anyway. So, first let's look at the words, then we'll chant them. Nirguna. Means without, that actually means without material qualities.
Yeah.
So, is there a little bird in the room? So nirguna, basically that's how, like in ISKCON language, we would say something like beyond the material platform or transcendental. That's one of the ways in Sanskrit you say transcendental, nirguna, without material qualities. So even though nirguna, api, it means, so even though nirguna, he indeed, ajo, that means Krishna, the unborn, aja, avyakta, unmanifest, Bhagavan, the Lord, Prakrite Paraha, beyond Prakriti. Another thing, we would probably say something like transcendental. So, Para, beyond Prakriti. Swamaya gunam avisha. So despite all that, the word of P tells you right away that even though all this is true, there's something else true that you might not have expected. So that's the way this verse is being set up. Swamaya gunam avisha, entering into the qualities of his own illusory potency. So the verse is presenting a paradox. Paradox is something that looks like a contradiction, but if you look closer, it's not. So this verse has many verses, just like earlier Parikshit said that even though why was Krishna partial? If he's supposed to be impartial, why did he kill the demons and save the devotees? So it's interesting. This first chapter of Canto 7 is kind of dealing with different theological paradoxes. It's actually what's going on here. It's kind of like the theme here. So entering, and the word avisha, it means entering. So it's a dependent clause. Oh my God. Don't sue me for all this Sanskrit. It's so because it's a dependent clause, it's like in English, if you say entering into that, then something has to complete the sentence. So avisha, entering into the qualities of his own illusory energy, badya bhadakatangataha. Badya, obligation, he accepts the condition of not being. I wish I had a Sanskrit dictionary here to see exactly how the word. Let's say we'll read the purport. Badakatam. What?
How many?
Actually, why don't you get one?
Which one? Anyone?
Moni or Williams? Moni or Williams? I think it's on the bottom shelf. Because it's very interesting. So Bada, mean like blocked. Prabhupada translates it obligation, Badya. Badakatam, the condition of being obliged, an obligation. Gataha, he accepts. So I want to go to the dictionary to get a really precise idea of what those words mean. So we'll read the translation now. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is always transcendental to material qualities. And therefore he is called Nirguna, or without material qualities. Because he is unborn, he does not have a material body to be subjected to attachment and hatred. Although the Lord is always above material existence, through his spiritual potency, he appeared and acted like an ordinary human being, accepting duties and obligations, apparently like a conditioned soul. So that's the bhajya, accepting duties, like someone who is to be bound by some kind of obligation. And then badaka tam means the position of giving duties to others. So the envelope, please. Dictionary. Thank you, Dandini.
No.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Okay, there are three of them.
That's English to Sanskrit. Means Sanskrit to English.
Okay.
Okay, we still love you. So I'll read Prabhupada's purport. So-called attachment, detachment, and obligations pertain to the material nature. Attachment, because in the spiritual world, there's no attachment, so there's no process of detaching. Mm-hmm. So attachment, detachment, and obligations, you have to do something. Prabhupada is saying here, the spiritual world, there's absolute freedom because everyone is pure and everyone has good intentions. You don't have to tell someone that you must do this because they're going to do something good anyway. It's like if you go to a restaurant, let's say, with some respectful person, you don't say, use your napkin, or don't eat too much, or don't chew too fast. Right? I mean, you don't say that to adults. Thank you, Gandhi. So let's see. God, it's been so long since I've done this. because now the dictionary is online. This is really kind of like I used to do this all day, of course, in the Sanskrit dictionary. I haven't done it in a long time. I still remember how to do it. Okay, here it is. So badya means to be pressed hard or harassed or distressed or pained or checked or suppressed, to be set aside. Badyatwa, which is the same as the badyatwa, instead of being set aside. And then badaka, badaka means oppressing, harassing, paining, opposing, hindering, injuring, prejudicing. And then badakata, which is the word we have here. Ta means it's the same as the English ty, like felicity, generosity. It turns an adjective into a noun. So badaka, badakata means setting aside, suspending, annulling. So so it really means Krishna cannot be opposed, doesn't oppose anyone. He cannot be harassed. He doesn't harass anyone. This is sort of going back to the opening discussion we had in this chapter. Like, why did Krishna kill the demons and save the devotees? So in fact, Krishna is not like, he's not really out to get somebody, and nobody can do anything to him. And so Shuka, because Parikshit had that doubt, or at least brought up that doubt for the sake of teaching others. So now it's kind of coming back again. So that's what that was. Thank you, Nandini. So, so let's go on with the purport. So-called attachment, detachment, and obligations pertain to the material nature, which is an emanation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But whenever the Lord descends and acts in this material world, he does so in a spiritual position. Although because you have to understand that this Bhagavatam is being presented within a society that is not talking about rights, like human rights, I have my rights. That wasn't what the society was about. It was a society of duties. In fact, if you look at all pre-industrial societies, the huge emphasis is on your obligations, your duties, not your rights. And of course, if everyone does their proper duty, everyone enjoys their rights. So although his activities materially appear different, spiritually they are absolute and non-different. So if you have material vision, you will think, okay, here's God, but he's acting this way. So those two things don't go together. That's if you have material vision. But if you have spiritual vision, then you will see it's all consistent. There's no contradiction. That's what Prabhupada's saying here. Like people see that Krishna has a blue body, or he has a human-like body, and think, well, that's inconsistent with being God. Thus, it is an imposition upon the Supreme Lord to say that he is envious of anyone or friendly to anyone. So it is that's what the Badya and Badata, that's what I thought it was about. And that's sort of confirmed in the purport. Sukha is, to use that cliche, circling back, or he's going back to the original point. So in Bhagavad Gita 9:11, the Lord clearly says, Avajananti mang mudha manushin tanum ashitam. Fools deride me, or when I descend. Fools deride me when I descend in a human form. Manushin tanum, a human form. So it's interesting because the word avajananti, ava means down. Like, oh, we have a guest here. Hare Krishna. Hey, how are you? Come on in. So ava means down. And so jananti means they know, like to know something. And so avajananti, which in Sanskrit means to insult someone, or to, as Prabhupada says here, to be envious of someone. Avajananti literally means to understand them in a lower way. Avajananti, to see them or understand them in a lower way. So that's the verse. So Krishna appears on this earth or within the universe without any change in his spiritual body or spiritual qualities. Indeed, he is never influenced by the material qualities. He is always free from such qualities, but he appears to act under material influence. Because if everyone in the world is affected by these modes of nature, and you see someone come to the party and it looks like they also have a body like you, because you're seeing through material eyes, that you just assume that they do what everybody else does that has a body. In fact, the very notion of a spiritual body is it's not really within the conceptual repertoire of people in general. They don't talk about spiritual bodies. It's not like there are podcasts about it, or it's not in the news. So it's just not something people imagine.
What about glorified bodies in the Christian tradition? They sometimes speak about you get your glorified body. Is there some sort of...
Yeah, but it has to be resurrected because your body's dead, and then someone has to kind of put it back together. So that so Krishna is always free from such material qualities, but he appears to act under material influence. So when Krishna kills, let's say, the bad guys and saves the good guys, that seems to reinforce the idea, well, he's just doing what everybody does, helping his friends and, opposing his enemies. And you have to understand the context of the Bhagavatam being spoken. For us, this is a theological discussion. We're just talking about philosophy or philosophical theology. For the people who are, for Parikshit and Shuka, it's not just a theological discussion. They're talking about a real historical person that very recently was in the world. They're talking about someone that was just here a little while ago. And everyone's still talking about him. Because when Krishna came, he had such an impact. Even that's why, scholars have so many different ideas, what the Mahabharata is, what this is, what that is. But they all agree that in the Mahabharata, ultimately, the real central figure is Krishna. Even, mundane scholars realize that Krishna is different than everybody else. So this discussion is taking place among people who are almost contemporaries of Krishna. It would be like if you were talking about, let's say, if you were talking about, let's say, a president of the United States, or maybe Gorbachev, or someone, John Kennedy, or maybe even a more recent president. And so you're talking about, like, why did America really go to war in Vietnam? Why did the Russians, why did Gorbachev really dissolve the Soviet Empire? They're talking about things that just happened. They're not just doing theology. They're talking about the news. They're talking about Krishna was just there. And so the memory of Krishna walking around the world and killing bad guys and saving good people, it's recent history. And they're analyzing recent history. That's something which is not really has been talked about, isn't it? They're actually discussing very recent history. And because Krishna's personal presence of just living in the world, and his relatives are still alive. There are still people, just like John Kennedy was the American president, and there's still, his daughters still, there's people who are still in the family. And so this is a discussion at a time when Krishna's own family members are still living in the world. And they're trying to figure out, who was he? Who was he? So it's a very, how should I put it? It's a very live debate. It's a discussion that's going on everywhere. Who was he? And even Krishna killing all these asuras, it's something which is, no one's forgotten. People that are alive, it's like everyone that's alive at that time as an adult, maybe their grandfathers were actually there. So everyone is talking about what happened very recently. Everyone's talking. It's just like when I was growing up, everyone's father was either in World War II or, my father, he had some physical condition that he didn't go to war, but he worked in a yard making battleships. So when I was just a child, just a little child, that's what everybody's talking about, World War II. And so when this is being discussed, people are still talking about the Battle of Kurukshetra and what happened, or when Krishna killed Jarasandha. This is like very recent history. So if you think of it that way, why do they keep talking about, well, Krishna, he did this and he did that, but, was he just partial? What was he doing? And they don't have the Bhagavatam yet because it's just being spoken.
Mm.
It's not that, well, don't you remember in the Bhagavatam class yesterday? That was, so it's very interesting to just project yourself back into that time and what's going on with Shuka and Parikshit and so on.
Some of them also covered by Yoga Maya, no? So there's even more difficulty to.
Well, Mahamaya, most people in the world, not these sages, but the sages are not covered. But, it's different when you join the Hare Krishna movement and you sit down as you're eating your seventh sweet ball and someone's just preaching to you, and saying, telling you read this, and this is Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. They didn't have Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita was just being told by word of mouth because it was an oral society. And so the news was just spreading like that. Everyone probably heard that on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna instructed Arjuna, but what did he say? So how would you know what he said? You'd have to hear from someone. If you lived in some remote part of Bharatvarsha, how would you even know what Krishna told Arjuna? And the system back then was there were Brahmins traveling, so you'd have to wait till some sage or sannyasi or brahmana just happened to travel through your village. And if you were lucky, he would tell you what Krishna said. And then probably there were other opinions. Some people, like this typical thing you find in the Bhagavatam, even in the Gita, some people say this, some people say that. And so you can think, well, it's like Queen Kunti in her prayers. People are wondering, people were talking about, why did Krishna come? It's like, we know, Paritranaya sadhunam. So it's, because they didn't have bookshelves and they didn't have books. And so the news was just spreading. So it's actually fascinating, if you have the ability to project yourself back in time and what it was like to be alive back then. I find it very interesting. So Krishna is always free from such qualities, but he appears to act under material influence. It's just like with Prabhupada. Prabhupada, there were people who were really attached to Prabhupada's personal association. And Prabhupada always emphasized that it's more important service and separation, to serve the Vani, the message, not just the Vapu or the body. And so, anyway, there's so much to be said. So he appears to act under, there's a long list of people who thought that Prabhupada was acting in some material way because they had too much personal association. There's somewhere in America, there's a graveyard of, Prabhupada servants. And so, and Prabhupada, he gave me a lot of wonderful association, but then after a little while, he'd always say, okay, go back to work. It was like he would say to me, you know who I am. What are you doing here? Just go do your service. And it's true because, when I was out there in the preaching field, offending impersonalists, I did feel Prabhupada's presence very strongly. So anyway, so this understanding that Krishna has a material body is aropita, which means imposition. Prabhupada said imposition, when you impose something which doesn't naturally belong there. That's the idea. That's what imposition means, that something really is not supposed to be there, but you force it. So that's an imposition. Therefore, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam. We say, even Joveti Tattva, whoever truthfully understands my janma, my birth, and my activities. And when he says truthfully, the word is, again, as we discussed last night, tattvataha. In other words, you understand the categorical truth. There's a category which is matter, material body, and another category is spirit, spiritual body. So when Krishna says one who understands my birth and activities categorically, it means you understand what is matter and what is spirit. So only devotees can understand the truth of how he acts. So it's interesting. You can say, well, is that sectarian? Well, no, because a devotee means you care about how Krishna acts. It's like saying, well, it's not that only people that study biology understand biology. Well, of course, only people that study biology understand biology. So to say that only people who actually take Krishna seriously understand him, who really study him, that's an obvious point. Only even Joveti Tattvataha, only devotees can understand the truth of how he acts. The fact is that Krishna is never partial to anyone. He is always equal to everyone, but because of imperfect vision, influenced by material qualities, one imposes material qualities upon Krishna. Like I imposed upon my mother, the quality of sometimes favoring one of my brothers. That's just what happens in families. When one does impose material qualities on Krishna, he becomes a mudha, a fool. When one can properly understand the truth, one becomes devoted and nirguna, free from material qualities. Simply by understanding the activities of Krishna, one can become transcendental. So there's a lot at stake here. I mean, the next time you're unhappy, the next time you're lamenting, the next time you're just not happy, remember this, that if you can just understand Krishna, you can be transcendental. And when we're transcendental, we're not going to suffer anymore because we're beyond it. So it's in our rational self-interest not to be stupid about these things. So so we understand Krishna. That's what Krishna says, if you understand me, you'll understand yourself because you're part of me. So if we're not understanding ourselves properly, symptomized by lamenting for things that ultimately aren't that important, or desiring things that ultimately that aren't that important, it's because we forgot Krishna. It's just like, we could, we might do this or that, but when we were in Prabhupada's presence, we were on our best behavior. Or if you go to the temple and you're not crazy, then when you go to the temple in front of the deities, you just behave properly. If you want to yell at someone, you wait till you're outside the temple. That's why you can hear all kinds of fascinating epithets just outside temple rooms. But if you always remember Krishna, then and you realize you're part of Krishna. So when one can properly understand the truth, one becomes devoted and nirguna, free from material qualities. Simply by understanding the activities of Krishna, one can become transcendental, and as soon as one is transcendental, he is fit to be transferred to the transcendental world. Taktva deham, giving up the body. Punarjanma, again birth. Naiti, one does not go to. Mameti, one comes to me. So Arjuna, that person. So one who understands the activities of the Lord in truth is transferred to the spiritual world after he gives up his material body. So that's the verse. So now we can chant it. We didn't chant it. Okay, ready? Nirguno, wow. Nirguno pi hyajo vyakto. Nirguno pi hyajo vyakto. Nirguno pi hyajo vyakto. Bhagavan prakrite parak.
Bhagavan Prakriti Para.
Bhagavan prakrite parak.
Bhagavan
Samaya gunamavisha. Badhya badhakatam gataha. Badhya badhakatam gataha. Want to try their luck?
Nirgunopyajo vyakto.
Jo vyakto.
Bhagavan prakritik paraha.
Bhagavan prakrite.
Swamaya gunam avishya.
Maya gunamavisha.
Pada katam gataha.
Badhya badhakatam gataha.
Nirgunopi hayajo vyakto
Nirgunopi hyajo vyakto.
Bhagavan prakrite paraha
Bhagavan prakrite paraha.
Vamaya gunamavisya
Swamaya gunamavisha.
Adya badhakatam gataha
Going.
Nirguno Pijajo Vyakto
Nirgunopi hyajo vyakto.
Bhagagrate
Bhagavan prakrite paraha.
Swamaya Vishya
Swamaya gunamavisha. Badhya badhakatam gataha. Going once, going twice. So that's it. So thank you very much. So again, that's so I was right that Vadya Badhakatam in the dictionary, Vadya means that someone can be harassed by someone else. And so Krishna or threatened by someone else or attacked by someone else. And so Krishna, just in the way Sanskrit works, like idioms, gataha, gone to, often the word go to means like to go to a condition, like to become or to be harassed by someone. But in Sanskrit, you go to different conditions. So Krishna went to Tom, means like the condition of being threatened by other people. Not that he was in danger, but other people were, threatening him. And he was badaka, he was, harassing or doing things to other people. So, and Tom means the condition of. So he went to that condition. In other words, he took that on. And so Maya Gunam Avisha. So he entered into Avisha, he entered into this quality of his own Maya, even though he's paraha, he's beyond Prakriti. He's beyond matter. He's beyond the material world. Bhagavan, nirguno apis. Even though he has no material qualities, he's aja, unborn, which means he never takes a material body, and he's avyakta, which literally means unmanifest. In other words, you think you're seeing him, but you're not seeing what's really there. It's just like if someone goes into a temple and sees a deity, on one hand, they're seeing it, like what color is it, what shape is it, but they're not seeing what's really there. It's like, let's say you look at a formula in physics, an equation in physics. Have you ever done math? Let's say you look at an equation in physics and, you see it, but you're not seeing it. It's like, let's say, for example, someone doesn't speak English, doesn't understand anything about English. So they see the page with the letters on it, but they're not seeing what you are seeing. You are seeing meaning, and they're not seeing that. Or if I look at something in Finnish, It's like, what are all those little symbols? So you can see that, and that's a theme in the Bhagavatam, which is expressed a few times by these words, pashyana pi, even seeing, na pashyati, he doesn't see. So you are seeing, but you're not seeing. And that's the example that's being given here, that so he's avyakta, he's manifest. Krishna's there walking around in the world, but people are not seeing what's really there. So thank you all very much. Stop here. No refunds. Yes.
You were speaking about how in the past they didn't have, bookshelves, for example. So it brings up the question of, what defines, we also hear that, back then, Mahabharata times, things were way more advanced than today. So what constitutes advancement of civilization? And how was that culture or that society more advanced than today's society, where we have bookshelves and so many other things?
Well, the reason they didn't bookshelves, they could actually remember a thing. We can't remember where we left our car keys. So Krishna, I mean, in some ways advanced, and in some ways, remember that also that Krishna says in the Gita, I come when it's a mess. Krishna doesn't say that I come to this world when everything's really going nice and everyone is just sort of sitting in parks and sucking on lollipops. Krishna says that yada yada hi dharmasya. Yada means when, and if you repeat it, yada yada, it's like English whenever. So yada yada, whenever, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir, a collapse of dharma. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati, whenever there's a collapse of dharma, bharata, api uttanam. These are very interesting words. Tan here is actually an abbreviation of stan, to stand. So uttana means to stand up, literally. Or in that sense, it means to arise, like something really stands up or stands out. So, and then avi has a sense of aggressively. So when adharma is aggressively rising, avi uttanam adharmasya tada, then atmana sajamiha, I manifest myself. And paritranaya, it's interesting, trana means to save. And so pari, which we have in English, of course, perimeter, perimeter, means around. And so as a prefix, it can mean like completely, like all around. So paritrana means like completely rescuing, saving. So paritranaya sadhunam, basically in order to save good people. Doesn't just mean people that walk around in noisy little, what do you call it? Those sandals.
Flip-flops.
Yeah, the other wooden shoes. I hope they have good podiatrists. Anyway, so paritranaya sadhunam, and then vinashaya cha duskritam, in order to destroy those who are doing evil. Duskrita. Krita means doing, and dus, just doing evil. Vinashaya cha duskritam. Dharma sangstapanartha. It's interesting because stapana and uttana, it's because yada yada hi dharmasya glandra abhiyuttanam. So in the word abhiyuttanam adharmasya, there's an abhiyuttana of adharma, but that's actually sthana. And then Krishna says dharma sangstapana. Stapana is the causative form of the verb to stand. So it means to make something stand, like to restore it. And some completely. So dharma sangstapana, fully making dharma stand up again. Dharma sangstapana, and artha means purpose. So arthaya means for that purpose. That's how you say in Sanskrit, for the sake of, for the purpose of. Dharma sangstapana arthaya. Very interesting, isn't it?
Very.
Dharma sangstapana arthaya sambhavami, I manifest I appear yuge, again, in every yuga. It's very interesting because Krishna says yada yada, whenever, and then he says yuge. So these are like this frames these two verses. Yada yada, and then yuge. So that means in every yuga, I will always do this. It's not that the Asura is going to catch me like asleep or something like, yeah, I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't looking at the screen. And so Krishna is saying, whenever this happens, in every yuga, I will come.
So in every yuga happens.
Yeah.
It's almost from the sentence also saying this going to happen.
Although, for
Because
example, let's say, for example, someone is a great concert pianist
Mhm.
and they hit one bad note, it's like, it's headlines around the world. Whereas if I play, you would notice it because there's too many of them. So that's it. Yeah, in different ages, but in ages there are also extraterrestrial bad guys.
Mm.
So even if on Earth in Satya Yuga everything's going nicely, there's going to be like invaders from Mars or wherever they're coming from. So it's interesting. Any other questions? Yes.
I have three questions. My first question is
Uh-oh, she wants like 3 scoops on her phone.
my first question is it's also said, we also read that Krishna comes in every species of life.
Well, it doesn't literally say every species. It says it's the last verse of the first. We have the first canto here.
It's in my room.
And here.
No, I have it in my room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering who that book came here.
Upstairs, I can go up and upstairs.
Oh, that she's already gone.
I am.
Gandhi just wants to work out. She's just into her stairmaster.
They say a relationship about
So sorry.
I don't know if I'll get over this. So
2 scoops.
just
No phone.
okay. David Tiryang Naradi. David Tiryang. That he's the end of the second chapter. Yes. Yes, it's the last verse of chapter 2 of the first canto, which is Bhavyati Esha Satvena Lokan Vai Lokavavana Leelavatar Anurato Devatiryang Naradishu, which is an amazing verse. It means literally by goodness, in every age, by goodness, Satvena, by goodness, Krishna literally causes the worlds to exist. Bhavyati is the causative form of the verb to be. So literally, he makes the worlds exist, or he makes them flourish in the sense of existing well. He causes the worlds to flourish because loka bhavana, because he is the one who makes the world flourish. So Sanskrit is full of this very sophisticated plays on words and everything. Goes on all over the place. So bhavyati is the verb then because he's loka bhavana. Prabhupada translates it as master of the universe. So lilavatar anurato, because he is enjoying his different lilavataras, pastime avatars, deva tiryang naraishu, among gods, animals, and human beings. So he's appearing in all these different sectors of. So there's that verse, but as far as saying that he appears in every species, Is there a verse that actually says that?
Prabhupada mentions it in the purport, right?
I've definitely read it in a purport of Prabhupada's because I kind of only read Prabhupada's purports. I mean, like, so I definitely read it somewhere, but I don't know exactly where.
Other than human beings, something like that.
But like, it was
It
also.
said literally every species.
I'll have to look it up. Maybe I can ask you that another time.
Yeah,
To
okay.
show it to you.
You're gonna book back.
Put it on there, so I'll put it back on the shelf. Okay.
So any other question?
Yeah, I have 2 more scoops.
Oh, 2 more scoops. How about pistachio nut and butterscotch?
How about paradoxes and projecting? Those 2. Okay, so first question. You mentioned that much of what's presented in the first of the seventh canto is these paradoxes. But like at the beginning, like the first canto, it's much more about just like, tell me about the questions or tell me about the creation of the world, like much broader questions. And so I'm wondering, it seems as though the Bhagavatam is a journey. We're being led on like a
Right.
journey of discovery.
We are, although in the first chapter, there are a lot of questions about Krishna's personal life, Krishna's personal activities. A lot of, you go back to the first chapter, the first 3 verses, like these big, great introductory verses. But after that, they really want to know about, and also in the first canto, Kunti in her prayers is saying like, why did Krishna come? And people have different, there's a lot of discussion of Krishna.
No, it's not whether it's about Krishna or not. It's about the presentation of these paradoxes.
Oh, paradoxes.
Versus general questions for like knowledge.
Well, that's a very interesting question. I mean, you've raised it, and what you might do, because it's a very interesting question, is actually look and see to what extent there are paradoxes in the earlier parts of the Bhagavatam. That's an interesting question. In fact, I mean, that's like, as they always say in the universities, that would be a good thesis topic. It really would. I mean, it would really be, it would be very interesting to see where paradoxes first arise in the Bhagavatam. Are there more of them later?
And
I never thought, but it's an interesting topic.
because I feel like it might be part of a personal journey also. They start showing up more in a
Right.
personal journey and they're represented like it leads, not that it leads, but it's like a discovery, an intentional, purposeful discovery. But I thought maybe, anyways, I'll have to just do that research. It's fine.
No, but that would be a very interesting research, like the presence of paradoxes in the Bhagavatam, because like my first thought was, I think they're everywhere, but maybe not. So, but that would be a good. Why don't you find out and tell us?
Okay, give me 2 to 3 years and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, this is 6, then 5 years, so no problem.
Third scoop.
Yes. Oh, you have a third scoop. Okay.
You in that verse, you also mentioned this idea of projecting, almost like we were projecting. The accusation was we're projecting that Krishna must have a body, his body must be material because we have material bodies. Like this idea of like, from my perspective, I have a reality and I'm projecting that reality on Krishna. And we see that a lot in our like modern psychology, almost. This idea of we see the world through, we see others the way we are, not the way they are. This idea of projecting between us. And so it's often seems as though we have like microcosms and macrocosms and like many, many different worlds where almost the same dynamics exist in big ways and then in small ways. And I'm wondering if that's real or if that's my imagination. And also, I suspect there's some truth to it. So if there is some truth to it, how do we understand this idea of projecting? Is it, let me see if I can word this the way that I'm trying to. I don't think that I can word this the way that I'm trying to.
Well, I understand. I mean, so far, I
Okay.
think I understand what you mean.
Okay.
Should I respond?
Yes, please.
So, yeah, first of all, let's start with this. If someone is a conditioned soul, then it's practically inevitable that we see things through our own filters. In fact, there's a popular Sanskrit proverb, Atmavan manyate jagat, that a person manyate thinks jagat, the world, Atmavan is like oneself.
Mm.
And so yeah, so the fact that to be conditioned means that you're conditioned by your own experiences. That's what it means to be a conditioned soul. For example, let's say every time a dog, reaches for, or tries to grab a dog biscuit, it gets a little electric shock. Then it associates reaching for dog biscuits with electric shocks, and so that's what conditioning is. It means that because I experienced certain causes and effects, when I do this, that happens, then I always assume that this will always lead to that, even when it's not true. But we're conditioned. And so it's really a psychological term, conditioning. So to be a conditioned soul means that every body we've ever seen is a material body.
Mm.
So therefore, bodies are material. Because it's also called the problem of empiricism. And that is, empirically, you can never actually prove anything. You can just show it's extremely likely. Whereas, for example, in order to prove things, you can only prove deductive arguments, not inductive arguments. Like, for example, let's say Gandhini is a human being. Let's say human beings are immortal. Gandhini is a human being. That's actually not true. She's really transcendental. Okay, let's use the old one. Men are mortal. Women are lucky because women aren't. But men are mortal. Men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. So if it's true that men are mortal, if that's true, and if it's true that Socrates is a man, then it's necessarily true. It's not empirical, it's deductive. It's necessarily true that Socrates is mortal. Or some things are just necessarily true by definition. If you say John is a bachelor, John is not married, because not married means he's a bachelor. So certain things are just, it's almost like a trivial proof. It's just by the meaning of words. But if you say, let's say, for example, every time we mix 2 parts oxygen and 1 part, it's 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. As you can see, I'm a very advanced chemist. So if you mix 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, get water, but the laws of nature can change. It's not necessarily true because something could happen and the laws of nature could change. So that's actually, they call it the problem of induction. The problem of induction rather than deduction is you can never actually prove something. So, absolutely prove it. You can show that it's like overwhelmingly likely and everyone's going to just trust it anyway. But so in your case, to be a conditioned soul, I want to make sure I'm on your point. So your exact question was?
Do I even have an exact question?
Well, you did call it a scoop.
I know.
Scoop is a synonym of question.
Yeah. So then I have a question. So my question is almost, can we use our micro world experience?
Oh, yeah. Okay, remember. Yeah, so that's what we do. The way you function in the world is by induction. For example, let's say you have to be at work at a certain time, and every time you leave, let's say at this time, you get there late. And every time you go at this time, you're too early. And so therefore, inductively, you assume that this is a good time to leave, assuming there are normal traffic conditions. Or let's say you're a kid in school and there's a bully in the school. Every time you go near that person, they bully you, so you just don't go near that person. And maybe the bully could say, well, no, today, I had a religious conversion. Now I'm nice. But you still don't want to go near that person. And so that's how we function in the world. That's how people choose, who should be my friend. Should I get, should I marry that person? Should I have this job? I mean, that's how you function, by judging from experience.
Mm.
And so, but it can also lead you astray, because you can, and here the word is aropita, which means imposed.
Hmm.
And so you can make a false assumption about a situation because actually there is a new variable that you didn't know about. And so to be a conditioned soul means that you just trust your past experience, as people do almost without thinking. But so it takes a certain kind of intelligence to be open-minded and to say, well, this is my experience, but this could possibly be different.
Can you also apply this to how when, as we are trying to shift to like a more spiritual or transcendental awareness, rather than just navigating material relationships and realities, now trying to cultivate a more transcendental relationship with Krishna, etc., and using our conditioned experiences to understand or have spiritual kind of like realizations.
Yeah, well, for example, you have to really come to the point of kind of giving up on material life. If you still think that I can beat the system, there's some way I can cheat, even though the material world is Krishna's energy, and even though I'm a tiny conditioned souls, I can beat the system. There's a loophole. That's what you do before you really become determined as a devotee. You basically are looking for loopholes. And I don't have to be a strict devotee, but I can still have the life I want. Or someone may, the most obvious thing is someone doesn't believe that God can have a spiritual body because they're conditioned to identify bodies with mortality, with, certain sort of unpleasant byproducts that come out of the body, with all kinds of things, with limited knowledge. And so that's when you say, God has a body, there's like a knee-jerk reaction. They're not having any serious ontological considerations. They're just jumping to a conclusion. It's a reflex rather than an analysis.
It looks like I wonder how many things we're seeing without seeing. Because you mentioned, like it's in a formula or a deity, and then you see, but you don't see. And I think like we're really blind, no? I mean, most of the time.
Well, you're sitting here right now, so you're not completely blind.
No, what I'm saying, we don't see really. So now, I like that point that you see, but you don't see. And I think that the problem is we don't realize that we are not seeing. When we see something, we think we're seeing it, but
Yeah, people are proud. I mean, that's the material condition, to be proud. And that's why Krishna told Arjuna that you don't, you've given all these nice arguments, but you really don't know what you're talking about. And you're missing the point. And then finally Arjuna said that actually, I don't really understand.
I think that will apply to spiritual masters or guides or even Prabhupada, that we see but we don't see truly, So this is very.
And we cannot see just other devotees. We can take them for granted. We can take each other for granted. And we can forget that, for example, the fact that someone is sitting in this room right now means that they have a very serious interest in spiritual life.
Mhm.
And there's not, that's put you in a very high percentile. So, because, familiarity breeds contempt. And it really does. So if we're just always around each other, we forget that this person is actually, according to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, out of many thousands of human beings, one actually wants to seriously pursue higher truth. And out of many of those, one knows me. So that's, in a sense, it's the, devotee association's a double-edged sword.
Mm.
in fact, it's funny because it's the most common thing that parents, they want to move to Alachua so kids can be around other devotee kids or go to a school. And I've noticed that some of the best behaved children of devotees were ones that lived way out where there were no other devotees.
Mhm.
And they actually became good, they're very, very respectful, very well behaved, didn't take other devotees for granted. I'm not saying everyone in Alachua, when I blow the whistle, everyone run, start packing your trucks and get out of Alachua. It's, but it, there, things have their upside and downside.
We still need to be associated with devotees.
No, we need to associate, but if you understand the dangers, it's like when you're driving. That's why they put little bumps on the side of the road,
Mhm.
so you'll know when you're going off the road. And so by hearing about these things, then when you're going off the road, you'll remember it.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll stop here. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Charlie.
Oh, bye everybody.
Questions, they have questions in there.
Oh, are there questions here?
No, parece que
No?
no.
Okay, thank you for not asking questions. Okay, Hare Krishna.